This is the best email outreach system that is guaranteed to get you more booked calls. Here's how it works. So let me actually kick off this workflow and then explain high level how it works. So the first step is we're actually just cleaning the company name and location to format it and feed it into an Apollo search query. And then we're going to get the results from this Apollo search and use AI to find the best matching company. From there, we're going to search this company on LinkedIn to find all the employees. And once that's done, we're going to feed it to another model to get the key decision makers. From there, we're going to find these key decision makers' email addresses. Then using Firecrawl down here, we're going to scrape their company website information. Lastly, we're going to send hyper-personalized emails, update the CRM, using the information that we scraped from the website. And then there's one more workflow after this that I'll show you that sends automatic follow-ups as well. So this is the initial lead list that we're using. It's very basic, just the company name, location, and a quick description. Obviously, different companies will have different ways to source their leads, but at the very least, this is a very, very basic way to start scraping companies that are within your ICP. Now from here, going to Apollo, you can see that just from DeFi Consulting, there are 6 responses, right? But we actually wanted this one here, which is from Singapore. And so at times when you search a company name, there's going to be more than one result, and which is why we need that extra step for the AI to determine which of these 6 companies is the one that we're actually wanting to target. Once we find the matching company, it's gonna go to LinkedIn and then find who are the top 3 decision makers within the list of employees. And then after it scrapes the website, it's going to send personalized outreach messages. This is just something really quick that we got, but notice on your focus on bespoke services, this is directly from their website. And then this is something about the company or your firm. And then obviously you can change it up to make it more fleshed out or however tone of voice you want. But the important part is that we're scraping their website and from there matching it with a service that your company provides. So let's say at Snowpeak, you do help with asset management. We're gonna match these two so that it makes the most sense for the lead that's receiving this email. So let's go into each individual node and see really quickly how it works. Google Sheets, I'm gonna assume that you know the basics of working within N8N, like actually connecting your credentials and basic stuff like this, getting rows from Google Sheets. This is a CRM that we looked at. This is the sheet, and we're pulling that single line here. We're gonna feed it through a batch so that we can kind of control exactly how many we want in each batch size. Because this is a pretty long and beefy workflow. So for the clean data node, this is what it looks like. I'm connecting to GPT-4o Mini, which is fine. And you can copy this. But the important part here is this, which is format the company name for an Apollo search URL properly URL encoded. So because, for example, DeFi Consulting Group has spaces in between those words, we need to properly URL encode it so that it gets picked up correctly like this within Apollo. Next step is the HTTP request for Apollo. So if you go to appify.com, it'll look something like this. In the store, you'll search up Apollo Company Search Scraper and you'll rent the actor. Now, if you want, you can do cookies. I think email and password is just the easiest. You could put any random search Apollo URL here and fine tune your scraping options, whatever you want. I left this all as default. And then when you go to JSON, you'll actually just copy this body here and import it into your N8N module. So this is the same mechanic for all the Appify actors. One thing to note is the API endpoint. So when you go here to the top right, you can choose which API endpoint you actually want to access. And so if I go back to N8N, you'll see that this is the one that I used. I don't want to share my API token, but it's run sync get dataset, which is a post request. And then, like I said, this is the JSON body that you're going to just copy and paste into here. And since we are searching for multiple different websites, you want to make it dynamic, right? So when we open this expression, this is how Apollo search URL works for companies. You're going to input the same thing here, and the variable that we're changing is the organization name. And this is why we needed the previous AI node to properly URL encode it, right? So we're just going to grab this and copy and paste it into here like so. Now from this search, Apollo retrieved 6 different companies that had a similar name. And so we're going to aggregate these by all the respective fields that we want. So we did ID, we grabbed the name, website URL, so on and so forth. And one important thing to do is at the very bottom, in the options, I want you to keep missing and null values. So for example, over here, instead of just having 3, it'll have 6 as it should. And for the blank ones, it'll just say null. So this is important when we actually start indexing and finding the best match. Here we are going to feed it to another AI model. This is the basic system prompt. And you can copy this. And the user prompt that we're doing here is a little bit more tricky because we want to make sure that basically if the AI decides that name 0 is the best matching company based on the location, based on the name, we also want to bring in the respective ID. So ID 0, website URL 0, LinkedIn URL 0, etc. So this is the way that it worked for me. And so you can also copy this to make sure that it's bringing in the correct fields. So in terms of variables, we want to grab the name here, JSON name, like so. This. And then same thing for the website URL. Now the target company to match is actually coming from the Google Sheets, right? So we grab the company name and location. So the AI is going to be using these 2 things to find the best match. Next step, once we find the company, is searching for all the employees. So we're also going to be using an Apify actor, except this time it's going to be called LinkedIn Sales Navigator Search Scraper. So this is the Apify actor, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And like I said, for this one, we need a cookie versus username and password. So the way this works is you're going to hit this hyperlink right here, cookie editor, which is going to be a Chrome extension. From then you're going to just log into your LinkedIn account, click on the extension, and then export the LinkedIn cookies and copy it into, or paste it into this section right here. For the search URL, you can just put any placeholder Sales Navigator search, and then I'll show you how to actually make it dynamic. Proxy, we can leave that. These are the options that I put. And then the reason we want to just input it here is it's just easier. We go to JSON, it's going to be a long list, and you just grab this, and then we're going to paste it into our N8N node. So make sure you have the right API endpoint, same way we did it for Apollo. And when you go to the body, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, that's where the search URL is. And so we're going to put the same thing, similar to Apollo. This portion right here is all the same. And then we need to input our variable here. And so this variable is going to be coming from the AI node right here. So company LinkedIn, we just grab this and just be a little bit careful on how you insert it in between these texts. And then once you do that, it'll run and you'll get a result where it'll scrape every employee. Now, once you get the list of employees, we are going to aggregate it to make it into one array. This time I'm doing it by, let's see, job title, name, and then profile URL. Once we get that, we're going to feed it to another AI model here. And this is the exact prompt that I'm giving it. Again, we want to make sure that it's indexing properly. So use index position to ensure that any selected record, the first name, last name are all taken from the same index. And then one more thing that I'm doing is formatting the output like so into this array so that it's easier to upload this into any mail finder, which is what we're going to use to grab and search their email addresses. So that's the system prompt, and you have to remember to get a user prompt down here and just drag and drop the job title, first name, last name, same thing that we did in the previous AI node. And the result, you're going to get the top 3 decision makers, their job title, and profile. So now we're just going to clean it up a bit and feed it into a HTTP request that's going to find their email addresses using an email finder. And for the JSON body, we're grabbing in from our code node and we're formatting it in this specific way because that's how the endpoint works for an email finder. You can use any other email finding software because this is kind of tricky, or you can just do what I did and feed it through a code node, clean it up and get it through into the right format. So once you run this, we're going to be putting a wait node because we're sending this request. We're going to wait 30 seconds and then download that specific request ID with all the information. It's going to come out as a CSV. Actually, let's look at this. This is important because after you run the initial email finder node, you're going to get a bulk search ID. And so you want to dynamically map it in here. Bulk search ID right here into there. And then it'll know exactly which one we are looking for. The authorization, I didn't mention this before, but it's just going to be very straightforward in the header, authorization, bearer, and then your API key here. Now, we download the CSV into here. We need to clean the CSV model. So this is our second to last AI node, in which case we are feeding it into this prompt. Extract the following structured lead. Only leads with verified emails should be included, and some other, arbitrary rules that I'm implementing just to make it flow better. So you can copy this as well. And you can see in the output, we're getting a very clean verified leads array. So there's going to be however many leads are actually verified. It's going to be under this array in which we need to spit it out and iterate it. So this is very straightforward as well. Fields to spit out. We're just hard coding it. You could also make it dynamic, but we're just grabbing this right here and then putting in here. It looks like for this run, only one verified lead came out, which is fine. But in the case where, let's say we found the emails of all 3 top decision makers. Now that I think about it, you probably want to swap this Firecrawl website and this one because they're all going to be belonging to the same company. So you only need to really scrape once. For this case, it's fine, but it's just some minor optimization that I would do. Now from here, we're using Firecrawl to get the full markdown of their website. So the way Firecrawl HTTP request works, in the headers, we're going to have the authorization and our bearer, which is our API key. And for the body, all we really need is the website URL. So we're going to grab this and paste it here. And that's going to give us a lot of data. But what we really need is just this markdown. And this is what we're going to be feeding to the AI to send personalized messages. So this is the final AI node that we're using. Now for this prompt, you can copy this directly into your node. But the important thing to note is the output here. This is the format that I want the AI to spit out the response in, right? And so these variables like name, company name, relevant thing, these are all defined down here. And so you can kind of tweak it to the way it makes sense for you and your business. But the idea behind this is that we want to send personalized messages, right? So the relevant thing is data that's scraped from their website, this markdown. And so for similar thing and source of truth, this is kind of beyond the scope of this video. But essentially, if I were to create this in a production setting, I would maybe, instead of doing this within a node, I would create a separate OpenAI assistant and message that assistant. And with that assistant, I'm going to feed it a knowledge base of basically all the services of your company or Snowpeak AI's company and all the past cases, all the highlights. And I'm going to supercharge the AI with this information so that it can pull a similar case study for what this lead is working on. And it'll just help connect the dots and make it easier for the lead to understand why you're reaching out to them and why it's important that they should book a call. What you do need to know is the variable guidelines. So shorten, if possible, just making it seem more like a real person did it. Like I said, relevant thing is being scraped from their website. And ideally, if you gave it a knowledge base, we want the AI to prioritize things on their website that align with the services we are providing, right? And like I said, the similar thing is a real use case or highlight. In the user prompt, we're going to be feeding it the markdown from here, and then the first and last name, which is coming from this split out node, this and this. Oh, sorry, just the first name and then the email address. Now the rest is very simple and straightforward. We're just opening a Gmail node, and this is where you can play around with the subject. You can have the AI create a subject as well if you want. And for the email type, we can keep it HTML, but then we would have to go back to the personalized email node and tell the prompt as well to spit out the icebreaker in HTML format. And then for the final step in this workflow, update CRM. So we're going to create another sheet or whatever the case may be. And we're going to grab these. So I don't know why it's red, but we can go to the split out node here and grab this. Do the same here. And then you get it. We're going to add the email. We're going to add the domain. So let's just do it together. Grab this. Domain. Personalized message, which is going to be coming from the icebreaker right here, just to keep track of it within your CRM. The date, and then we also want the thread ID. So once this is created, we're going to grab this and put this here as well. And so when we look at our Google Sheet or your CRM, all this information is being automatically populated with the date and the thread ID. So these two are important when we send those automatic follow-ups, which I'll show you now. Okay, so this is our second workflow, not as intimidating as our first one, and it's really quite simple. So when we kick this off, typically you would want this to run every day. Now, we're going to get the rows. So from our CRM, we have JSON coming in, and this is why we need the date and thread ID. We're going to go feed it to an if block, basically saying the date is after this JavaScript expression saying 3 days. This is an arbitrary number. You could do a week later, 5 days, whatever the case may be. But the idea is we want to give the lead some time to respond to us. And I only want to follow up if they hadn't replied 3 days later. So now we're going to feed it to another loop and batch it to how many leads you want. And now we're going to run a Gmail node to get the thread. So this thread ID is coming from our CRM. So let me run this. Oh, it's not going to come through because we just ran it. But you guys get the idea. This should be is after, but just for this case, we'll do exists. It's going to feed through the true, and then we can kick it off to here. So the thread ID is what we need. We're going to grab this, put it here. And now it's going to give us the full information of that thread ID. Now we're going to feed it into another if node, which is basically saying, is the thread, or is there more than one message in this thread? Because we just sent out a message to them. So that's message number one. If there are more than one messages, then we know that the lead had responded to us. And so what we're going to do here is just grab this array, put it in here, and is greater than 1. So let's run this. So obviously the lead had not responded to us. Now it's going to feed through the false branch, and that's where we're going to be taking action and sending a follow-up message. So this node is a reply thread node. Now from here, we're going to grab the thread ID as well from here, or either here or here, doesn't matter too much. And then we can also include the snippet as well, and then the reminder email. You can say whatever you want. Hey, Jason, following up on my previous message, blah, blah, blah. And that's pretty much it. You can add another append node if you want to update the date in which we sent the follow-up, but you just need to change this to run every day, and then it'll be running on autopilot. So hopefully that all made sense. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything that I can clarify. But this system is really powerful, right? You can apply it to LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, really anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be emails. And yeah, if you're interested in building something like this, either as an AI consultant or a firm owner trying to implement this into your business, I'm thinking of opening up some one-on-one coaching spots, probably just around like 5 a month. So I'm going to leave a waiting list down in the description. So feel free to sign up if you're interested.